सर आपने कम कर दी। हाँ मैं सोच रहा था ज्यादा जीवना आप 70 पे रोक रहे हो।
सर आप थोड़ी सी अपनी बढ़ा दो।
Okay. You know, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. Yeah, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. 18 साल मेरे लिए कम होंगे। However, this is exactly each one of us, when either entrepreneurs or whoever, actually have this stage when we know that we have promises and we have to keep them. However, some of us will get into a comfort zone for some time, enjoy the lovely, deep, dark wood, and then go ahead and make the promises. Some of us will actually not look at what all is going on around and just rush towards the promises to be kept. And I'm sure there are many of us who are right now sitting here will enjoy both. We'll look at, enjoy the lovely, deep, dark woods and also make all the promises. So thank you so much for this generous introduction. However, the story is into a flashback when generosity was not common for me. It was actually the time of inadequacy. And when I talk about inadequacy, to me at that time was inferiority. I was 2 when I lost my dad. My sister was 5 and my mother was the only one to give me or give us the life that we have today, the education and the values. She did her best to do whatever she could within her means, but that was not sufficient for us. It was not, because that is where inadequacy was playing a role, and definitely, we were looking around us who had everything and we had nothing. To the fact, oh, TV देखना है पड़ोसी के घर. Till the class of, I think class 10th, I had been wearing all the clothes made out of my uncle's old clothes. So I don't know, we don't have to fall into this mode of sympathy here. I'm only simply sharing that it was a state of inadequacy and inferiority. Nothing much more than that. So that was, let's park it here, that was scene 1 of the flashback, and take it to the next scene, which is about when I am 10. And I have been told about my father. By the way, because I was 2, I don't know who my father was, what he was like. I never discussed about it to her mother. And she said, that's your father in the photograph. And I said, okay, I had. It's the same thing. So it meant nothing, it's just a photograph. But at the age of 10, I was told he died of a heart attack, heart failure. And when his body was brought to the residence, which was in Malvanagar at that time, the markets were shut. The schools were closed. Everything. And there was a resume of, people at the funeral ceremony and the procession which was on. And I asked my uncle, why so? Was he a politician or a social servant or what? Who was he that he got such a kind of respect? He said nothing. He was a simple, nice human being. He would say Ram Ram to the Chaukidar before the Chaukidar would say Ram Ram to him. He was a nice man. He would help people. Would pay for education for poor people. He would do all that stuff, and I think that is the reason he got all the respect. Now that 10-year-old boy, that was me, at that impressionable age, said, "मौत हो तो ऐसी, मैं भी ऐसे ही मरूंगा." Wow, it sounds very nice, but it hit me hard. Why? Because मैंने सोच लिया मैं तो ऐसे ही मरूंगा और मरने के लिए ऐसे मरने के लिए मुझे अच्छा ह्यूमन बीइंग बनना पड़ेगा, और मैं निकल पड़ा अच्छा ह्यूमन बीइंग बनने के लिए। और जब मैं निकल पड़ा तो मैंने अपना बहुत नुकसान किया, क्योंकि मैं अपने घर का काम छोड़ के पड़ोसी का काम करता था। मुझे अपने घर के खर्चे पूरे करने की बजाय दोस्त का खर्चा पूरा करना था। मेरे पास पैसे होने नहीं हो, किसी और को करने के लिए कहीं ना कहीं से जुगाड़ हो जाता था। So this is the guy who actually, went to this mode of almost to the level of imagination that I want this nice human being so that कि जब मैं मरूं तो मेरे पीछे भी हजार लोग हों. And it continued. It continued till the time when it actually damaged me. It was absolutely, and I will share it in next 5 minutes. And it continued. It just continued. So that was the two phases, two stages, phases, whatever we call it, two scenes of that film, which is going in flashback. And then my education. I was among the top 5 painters of my school, and I wanted to get into fine arts. But didn't get admission in the only college which was teaching arts at that time, College of Arts. I didn't get admission. I couldn't clear the entrance exam. So I said, okay, मुझे तो ये करना नहीं है. I will just go do a distance learning program, and during that time learn printing business from my uncle who was into printing business. And wonderful, I started doing it, but within minutes, rather I would say within months, I realized that was not my cup of tea. I didn't like printing work, and then continued and then enrolled into direct regular college. Did my BCom honors, moved ahead, so graduation happened, and during that time, I was also teaching, I was taking tuitions, though I was a very average student during my education time, but it was easy, I thought at that time, to teach students of class 3 and 4. And I had made a little money. बहुत चाहिए था पैसा, अच्छा आदमी बनने के लिए चाहिए था. पैसा was required, and also I was actually bored of wearing old clothes. I wanted to enjoy my life because that, when it gets into that inferiority, you create a strong suit around you. You want to look good, and that looking good obsession actually continued while during my graduation. So anything that my friends were doing, I wanted to do that. Do something that I wanted and continue to spend money just like that. Let's not forget, and I'm sure you have not forgotten, we didn't have ample money. Mom was the only one. So it continued. So after this graduation completed, now time to go ahead, make your career, and then I had to study further. So I wanted to get into fine arts. I have always been a creative person, but I had done BCom honors. Now I was into this fix. However, I loved economics and I loved business management. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and do some MBA kind of thing. क्योंकि actual MBA तो होना नहीं था. So I did this part-time postgraduate diploma from Board of Technical Education, etc., etc. And that was in the evening. The classes were in the evening. In the morning, again, did a job. I did not believe why I hated accountancy, but for 2 years I worked as an accountant on freelance basis, writing books, and I never knew how to do it. I had learned it during the time because that was the need of the hour, and I had to remain good looking. So this was a regular thing which was going on there. So after that, it happened. Then I said, okay, PGDBA also happened. Now what should I do? Job. Let's hunt for a job. And the first job offer that I got was from Times of India as the management trainee. However, my uncles convinced me that you are such a brilliant designer, you should get into freelance designing, and because we are into printing business, we'll get you lots and lots of work. And before I could really get the appointment letter, I was convinced and started as a freelance. So that was the first self-employment. I set up a table in a one-room house, set up there, and then started working as a freelancer. 6 months, and don't forget, I'm talking about what? 1988. So no computers. I was a freelance designer. So for 6 months I kept doing that, and after 6 months I realized there are no uncles. There was nobody giving me work. There was nobody. It was only that during 6 months I kept working, I did a good job, but after 6 months they got busy with themselves and I was on my own. And I didn't know how to do a business. I didn't know I was a designer. So I didn't know how to go out and market myself. However, things were like that. I shifted to a rented office outside my place. Now that rented office, which was, because this was like no money, I'm only a designer, no marketing skills, I said what to do. Picked up a loan, paid the security for the rented office, hired one junior designer because if I had to market myself, somebody has to continue to work, and a helper, and everything was on loan, and everything loan. And it happened that we grew like this. 6 years continuously, we went like this from a small office to a bigger office, and then we crashed. And when we crashed, it was because the wrong decision on the wrong subject for the wrong time. Everything was going wrong, and I take responsibility of that. However, we crashed. We crashed so badly that we had to actually sell our house, whatever we had as assets, and the moment house assets, and I was on the road and didn't know what to do. My parents-in-law came into picture. They gave us a flat on rent, which they paid for. Wife's salary and mom's pension was paying for the kitchen. And I was lost. I was finished. I was sulking. I didn't know what to do. But however, I continued. I said, कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा. वापस freelance शुरू किया. But it was not sufficient because I still had loans to pay. I picked up a job at Luxor Writing Instruments. At that time, it was Luxor Pen Company. I worked there for 4.5 years. And that was the most learning time. Because I learned like crazy over there. I learned everything around how to do business, what goes into making a business, and I started. And I was a star there. However, they also said, you are a good star, but we can pay you as much. And that started, hitting me. I said, I can't really do as much. I need more money. My other colleagues were getting better money than I was. So they said, no, we can't do anything. And I moved on. And the moment I moved on, I joined a new company for just 6 months, got a huge amount of business for them, but then that company ran away. They were not sure, and I was hanging. The only difference was that I actually built up a brilliant project for them. And I went to the client and told them, they are not there, I can't do anything, I am not ready for more business, I want to do a job, so I can't do it. They said, nahi karna to padega, you do a prototype for us. I did a prototype, they said, no, you should supply it also. And during that, I was trapped into supplying 50 units at the cost of 10,000 rupees each. And I'm talking year 2000, 18 years ago, a business of 6 lakh rupees, and then an entrepreneur was born again. So that's why you can clap, you wanted to clap. So the restart. In this whole process, I kept learning, upgrading, unlearning, relearning, everything continued on every time basis. See, I didn't tell you the topic of my keynote was so much to learn before I sleep. And learn has L-E-A-R-N, in which E-A-R-N is in bold. What you earn, whether it is money, respect, everybody has a different way of doing it. However, I had become an entrepreneur, everything happened, I moved on, I continued for whatever, and we are doing very well. However, similar to what happened to your case, in one of my offices, was filled by water, I had to move out, and during the same time, I lost my dad-in-law. Because my dad was not there, my dad-in-law was the most important person in my life. So much so that he was my power center. Not money center, but power center. They were no other friend, he was the only mentor. I lost him. I got busy with winding up his business. Managing his wife emotionally, my wife emotionally, my sister-in-law emotionally. And I was into depression. For 6 months, I just didn't know what to do. I spoiled my business totally. I lost my clients, I lost everything again, so not so much of assets though, everything was safe, but my clients were lost, my respect was lost, my credibility was lost. And that was the bigger pain area. However, I had learned during this time, and did I mention, the looking good aspect somehow continued because that had become an obsession. I still had to look nice, everything had to be hunky-dory. And that is where one big thing happened. The biggest breakthrough happened was when one of my friends, who was actually my chartered accountant, told me, and he knew my problems of finances. He said, write a letter to your dad, my biological father, and say this. And what I wrote was, dear dad, I wanted to be you. I wanted to be a nice human being as you were, but I think I am not that capable. I really can't be you, so please allow me to let go of this whole obsession. I wrote that letter and tore it off, threw it in the dustbin. And here my life changed. What I learned was to let go, which was the biggest achievement I think I have had, biggest breakthrough I have had. And today I am standing in front of you as introduced by Sherry, as an entrepreneur, as somebody who is making a difference, becoming a laughter ambassador. I laugh, I smile. Many girls over here like my smile. And also we started with a new venture last year called Arogyale. We are promoting health in schools through Ayurveda. It's all free of cost. We are doing lots of work around that, and we are doing pretty well. Currently, we are handling a business around 2,000 crores for our customers.
Wow.
So, idea is very, very simple. We only have to keep learning, upgrading ourselves so that we are ready to take or face any challenge that comes our way. एक छोटे से एक आधा सेकंड ले सकता हूँ सर, आधा मिनट है ना? एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग सा मुझे एक कहना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि जब भी हम लोग अपने ड्रीम्स अनफुलफिल्ड रहते हैं, we actually have to, go back to sleep. Generally people say, if you really want to fulfill your dreams, get up and take some action. I said, once all your dreams are fulfilled, create a new idea. Go back to sleep, create an idea, create a dream, and next morning get up and do. I would like to sing a small song, which is, जागे हैं देर तक हमें कुछ देर सोने दो, थोड़ी सी रात और है, सुबह तो होने दो, आधे अधूरे ख्वाब जो पूरे न हो सके, एक बार फिर से नींद